Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you're here for the conversation this week. I am coming straight out of our home gym from a awesome leg workout. So, anyways, look a little frazzled, but while I was in the gym, God works in great ways. So, I thought of this conversation that I wanted to have with you guys. I was in the middle of doing some Roman deadlifts, and so here we are, workout clothes and all. Still thinking about what a great workout I had. I'm just so super excited about it. But I'm just grateful for this conversation we're going to have and all the conversations that we're getting to have. I'm just so blessed and I feel so grateful for each and every one of you here. I do not take what we're doing lightly, and it is very meaningful to me and impactful for all of you beautiful people to be in our conversation. So like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Let's get this community, just keep growing it. I just pray for the women who need it to show up, right? Like, that is my prayer every week, is for the women who need it to be here to share it with somebody else. Womanhood, momhood is tough. Wifehood, it's hard. It can be very challenging. And it's so important to find a community of women who don't just want to live in that mediocrity, who don't just want to live in the complaining about their life, who don't just want to live in the yuck, who are willing to acknowledge the hard and willing to say, like, this sucks and I'm struggling right now, but to be surrounded by other people who are willing to be like, I feel your pain, but like, we're going to come alongside you and we're going to encourage you and we're going to support you and we're going to lift you up, because we are not made for a life of mediocrity. We are made to live an abundant life. That's what God put us on this planet for. And that's what we're called to do. And it is vital and so important that we can recognize the hard, but that's not where we stay. That we recognize the hard, but then we work hard to encourage each other out of it, to live our best lives, not only for ourselves, but for our families and for our communities, and just doing great things. That's it. I'm just super excited this morning, super passionate about what we're going to talk about. So, last week we talked about creating a how I want to feel list. And that is so important. So if you haven't watched that teaching, if you haven't seen that conversation, jump back 1 week, check out that 20-minute conversation about creating a how you want to feel in your life. You want to feel not stressed, not chaotic, not overwhelmed, not burned out. But that's great. But what do you want to feel? And then now we're going to start taking that list and we're going to do two things with it. The first thing I want to talk about today is that for those of you who have already made your list, I am willing to bet that your I want to feel list lines up with your in Christ I am list. That the words on your I want to feel list mimic the in Christ I am list. That is so powerful, because it allows you to know that what you want to feel, you already have. God has already given it to you. So it's not finding new things, it's finding new ways of getting to that feeling, getting to that emotion. But God is already there. He's already given it to you. That already lives inside of you. Such a cool thought. And I didn't mention it last week because I was hoping you guys would notice that those two. So if you listen to the in Christ I am conversation, and then you listen to the how I want to feel conversation, they kind of dovetail together. They go together because who we are in Christ is how we want to feel and show up for ourselves and for our family. And so it's such a cool thought to me to know that I can live in peace because I am in Christ. I do have peace. I am peaceful. I can have courage to try new things because in Christ I am courageous. So those are just awesome thoughts that I had and I wanted to share with you guys. And I'm hoping you guys did both of those exercises, and so you're able to see. Because the one thing I do know about having conversations is it's so easy to listen to the conversation, but we got to put it into practice, right? We talk about that. These are practices. Very few things in life are a light switch. Most of them are all practices. Things that we get up every day, we do our best at, and then we get up the next day and we do our best again, right? Like, you don't become an overnight basketball playing success by shooting one free throw. You practice every day. You don't become a marathon runner by running one time, 1 mile, and then decide to run marathons, right? You practice. Whatever that is, whether you are a completely amazing hairstylist, an entrepreneur, whatever it is, we practice it. Motherhood, we're practicing every day. So practice these skills that we talk about in these conversations. It really does help, and it makes such a big difference in your life. If you guys have questions about any of those practices, you guys know you can always message me. I'd love to have those conversations with you in a one-on-one situation. So today, though, we're going to take the How I Want to Feel list that we created last week, and we're going to start talking about habits. And one of the things about habits that I feel like women do, I feel like women take habits and we turn them into things that are a way to do a couple different things. Control, right? We can control our habits, and that is true. We can control them. But I feel like we also can use habits as a battering ram on ourselves because we don't feel like we're measuring up to what we should be doing. And so we want to do these big habits changes, right? Like we want to have these huge pendulum swings in our habits. And I think that that's so counterproductive in a lot of areas. We can make big adjustments, but can we sustain those long-term adjustments? You can completely overhaul your diet, which is your choice, right? Or you could eat one salad a day and which one is sustainable? The one where you quit eating gluten, sugar, I don't know, everything under the sun, and you're going to eat this very strict diet is hard. It's hard to do long term. But if you just add one salad a day or a handful of spinach and something a day, that's so much easier. So just like with everything else, I am going to ask you guys to look at your habits, not in the lens of condemnation, not in a lens of you're not measuring up, not in a lens of I'm not doing enough. It's not right. I'm not doing. Everybody's habits are going to look different, and they should look different. We're all uniquely made in God. That's just the way it works. There are going to be some basic key pieces that everybody wants to implement, but how you choose to implement them is between you and God. It's personal. It's how it works best for you. I am going to share some things that I do and how I have worked on my habits through these next several conversations, but not in a way that I feel like my way is the only way. It is the way that is proven to work best for me. You can adjust these habits, and maybe they'll just give you some really great ideas to start with. So the first thing that I started doing with my habits was instead of coming at them as in like bulldog on the rawhide, gonna get it, nothing stopping me, hot powerhouse through, which is how it's kind of my personality is kind of like that. But when I started making these changes and I was working through my heart and I wanted to make some lasting changes, right? We talk about growing those deep roots in that soft heart. One of the first things that I told myself was I was not going to use self-defamation and comparison to make my habit changes. I was going to objectively look at my habits currently as they were, and I was going to make teeny tiny habits built out of self-love, built out of things that I knew I could control because we like that. without affecting other people or needing other people's approval or even needing other people to recognize that I was doing them. So I'm going to encourage that whatever habit changes you want to make, two things. One, you do them out of self-love. You do them out of self-love and love for your family, because if we love ourselves well, we can love our families better. That is fact. And so we want to do our habit changes out of self-love, not out of self-condemnation. The second thing that I am really, really going to encourage you guys on as we start looking at all of our habits is to not make habits that you cannot sustain long term. Make itty bitty, teeny tiny habits and let that 1% daily of getting better, let that ball start rolling downhill. It's like a snowball. It just starts as one flake. But if you add another flake and you add another flake and you add another flake, you end up with this gigantic snowball. And that's what happens with our habits. We want to go from no flakes to this big gigantic snowball and then wonder why we can't sustain it. Then we're frustrated. We're mad at ourselves. It's just another reminder to ourselves that we can't do something. And we're back to the loop of self-condemnation. So let's get off that train, right? We're going to get off that track. We're done with that train. We're going to get on the train of we're doing this for self-love because we are wonderfully and perfectly made in Christ. And we are going to do this with itty bitty, teeny, tiny, small steps that other people may not even notice. And that's awesome because that's sustainable. It's doable. Okay. So before though we start looking at how to change our habits, we first have to recognize our habits. That seems crazy to me that I could not figure that out. Like, I needed to know what my habits were. So I was part of this amazing program through Todd Durkin called the God-Sized Dreams. And he had us do an exercise with 4 quadrants. And so you guys are going to get a little teaching this morning on the conversation because, well, you guys all know that's what I do is teach. And so that's just comes naturally to me on this deal. And so I'm going to show you the quadrants and I'm going to show you kind of how we approach them and some ways to just start examining your habits. And we're going to take the habits that are currently in place. We're going to look at them not as an opportunity to feel bad about ourselves, not as an opportunity to condemn ourselves, not as an opportunity to be like, crap together, none of that. We're just going to look at them to see where they're at, and then we're going to start making some adjustments to them, okay? So I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see what I am going to show you. So here we go into, I've randomly and very roughly drawn 4 quadrants, okay? So up here in our quadrant 1 that you guys can see, this is things that we do as women, as mamas, as wives, that we had no intentions of doing today. I'm going to call this is the on fire. Okay, so this is your on fire quadrant. The kid forgot their lunch at school, so now I have to leave work and run them their lunch. They forgot their gym shoes. I got to take them their gym shoes real quick. My husband called in and needs me to run to town to pick up a part. Whatever it is that happened in your day or in your couple of days that you want to do this, that we call the on fire. Wasn't planned. Didn't know I was going to do it. I got a sick kid. I had to run that unbelievable errand. My boss sent me to an extra meeting I didn't know I had to go to. We had a professional development show up. Whatever it is, this is your on fire. This is your, I had no idea it was coming, but I made the adjustment to do it anyways. Okay. So that's our quadrant 1. Just write them down as you're going through this, through your day, do it for a few days. This is what the things that happened that were on fire. whatever it is. And for everybody, that's going to look different. They're not going to be the same on fire, but they are things that you did not plan on doing that day, but you had to do them anyways, or you felt like you had to do them anyways. You're on fire, okay? Over here in our quadrant 2, these are activities that were important to you and you executed. So these are planned, important activities. So they are planned and important. Okay? So this is my kid has basketball practice every Tuesday and Thursday, so I make sure they get there. I knew that I had a doctor's appointment. It was planned and it was important, so I went to that. I had a lunch date scheduled with my girlfriend and I didn't reschedule it. It was planned. It was important to me. Doing those things are important to me, planned and important. Whatever that is that you had planned for that day, that you and was important that you did, right? This is planned and important. Very important that we understand in this quadrant. This is not going to fall into quadrant 3. Quadrant 3 is need to do, but not important. And everybody's going to look at this one a little differently. For me, I need to do laundry, but nobody is going to go without if I don't get the laundry done today. I need to go grocery shopping for a few things, but we have plenty of food in the pantry if I don't get to it today. I need to find time to do the dishes and sweep the floor, but it's probably not going to be the end all be all if that doesn't happen. Those are things for me that I need to do, but I don't find them important. And now yours might be completely different. Planning to do the laundry and getting that completed might be your in quadrant 2 for you, planned and important. Okay, that might be very, very important to you, which is great, right? We get to create, these are just what the quadrants are that I feel like work for wife and mama. But you get to kind of pick what goes into each quadrant. I am not dictating to you, this is important or this is not important. This is for me. Another thing that I need to do, but is not important to me, is checking emails. That is not important to me. It's a necessity. I need to do it, but it is not the most important thing to me. I hate checking my email. I hate it. I need to do it, and I do it, but it's not important to me. So come up with what you need to do in life, but that's not important. Okay. Then I have quadrant 4 over here. And quadrant 4 over here for me is like, it is I call it low fruit. This is things that don't move us forward, that have a tendency to waste our time, that don't propel us into getting anything done. These are things like social media time or watching TV. They're fine in small doses. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I do all that too, but we need to be careful about how much we're putting into that low fruit. For you, maybe low fruit is going to be something different. There are times for me, even when like laundry and sweeping the floor falls into low fruit for me. Like it's a quadrant 4. It is the last thing that I think about doing. It is things that I feel are kind of time wasters. It is things that I don't necessarily feel give me a big return on my value. It's not a big bang for my buck. So we have to look at what we feel like is low fruit. And not everybody is going to feel the same way. For me, low fruit is very much, I'm not a social media scanner. I'm not a scroller. I love to follow the people that I follow. I follow people who motivate me, who encourage me, who do those pieces, but that's low fruit. something for other people, maybe that is a big part of your day. Maybe you really feel like that's important to you to schedule in time to be on social media. Maybe you have an online business that you run only through social media. So then that would be not low fruit for you. Maybe low fruit for you would be something different. Okay. It's not about somebody telling you what it is. It's about finding out where you're putting your quadrants and where you're spending your time. Because where do we want to spend our most of our time? In quadrant two, planned and important, right? Planned and important. Things that we plan to do and that are important to us. That's where we want to spend most of our time. That's where my self-care time falls into. My workout falls into plan two or into quadrant two. My spending time working really hard on my conversations and on building our community for you guys. That's so important to me. So I work really hard at that. That's planned and it's important. So I learned to protect that time. But we spend, before I became better about understanding my habits and better about what they were and how I wanted to feel, I spent most of my time in quadrant one or quadrant four. Those were the two that I spent most of my time in. Why do you feel like we spend most of our time in those quadrants? Because quadrant one is where we feel like we get that, like, oh, I need it. They need me and I get to save the day, right? So we love, whether we like, we can become addicted to quadrant one, that on fire. This is an on fire emergency. We don't want, that's not giving us it's not sustainable, right? That is not sustainable habits that we can live in. We can't continue to live in quadrant one, because then what the complete opposite of quadrant one is what? Is becomes quadrant four. We're burnt out, we're tired, we're frustrated because we're always on the go, we're always being called into doing something. And so we move to quadrant four, which is that low hanging fruit that doesn't move us anywhere. It's not improving our life, it's not improving our family's life. And we spend a ton of time there because we feel like then we need to recuperate from always being on fire up above. So we need to just look at our habits. So this exercise that I'm asking you guys to work on this week is look at these four quadrants of your current habits and just put them into places. Where does this go? Where does this go? My workout this morning went into quadrant two. Helping my husband hook up the tractor because he was having trouble and needed help went into quadrant one already this morning. So where do we put into each quadrant? And then once we kind of have an idea of what our basic habits are looking like, then we can look at them through self-love and say, okay, I spend way too much time being on fire trying to keep everybody else warm. So we can start adjusting that habit, because our feeling was we wanted to feel peaceful. Maybe you wanted to feel relaxed. You wanted to feel rested, right? Maybe those were some of your feeling words that you want to feel in your life. So we have to get out of quadrant one as often as we can. So let's look at our habits. Let's examine where we're at. And then we can start to make some adjustments. And that's what we'll have that conversation next week on, how to start making some of those adjustments. But one of the most important things is, it's just like a vehicle. You don't tear into a vehicle's engine and try to fix it until you diagnose the problem. You diagnose where things are going amok. You diagnose where things are hard. And then you can address what needs fixed. The same thing happens in our lives, ladies. We cannot just bulldoze our way through, throw all of the things we're currently doing out, adopt a whole new set of habits, and expect it to be sustainable. We have to diagnose things that are happening that we can, so we know where our hot spots are. Where are we lighting ourselves on fire to keep others warm? And what adjustments can we then start to make so that we're not burning ourselves to death? This is stuff for me that is so fun And it's so awesome because when we start looking at life in ways that life is happening for us, and we quit looking at life as just happening to us, where we feel like life, like we have no control, no say, no ownership into what our day-to-day life looks like. And then we're tired and we're burnt out and we're frustrated. But that's the beauty of these practices that we're adapting, like that we're looking at. We don't have to live in that. Like that is one of our biggest things, right? I say it all the time. We don't have to do that. We can choose different now. We're learning to choose different. And to learn to be able to choose your feelings and how you want to feel, we have to then take what we're doing and look at it and examine it and diagnose it and then say, oh, let's make this small change to move me out of quadrant one where I'm always on fire and move me into quadrant two. Let's work on some of those pieces. But before we can do that, we have to just know where we are. So this week, as you look at your four quadrants and you start putting in where you're spending most of your time in your day on those quadrants, do not do it with judgmental eyes and a condemning heart and being like, oh, no, no, we're not doing that. We're simply saying, I'm going to take ownership of my habits, but before I can take ownership of them, I have to know what they are. So that's what we're working on this week. You guys, I am so grateful for all of you, and I hope you enjoyed my teaching on my on my little bitty whiteboard, and I hope that that is helpful for you. I know that it was very helpful for me when I did it in Todd Durkin's God-Sized Dream program, and I just made it was so easy for me to start making small changes once I had written out where I was spending my time. So that's what we're working on this week, ladies. You guys have a fabulous week. Work hard at getting some self-love and self-care in. And I will see you guys all next week. And as always, I'm in your corner and I'm on your side. Have a great week.